Hi there, hope you're all doing well. This week I get another Orc painted up with Rurthdeg, the StarQuest villain. Although he will be leading my army, it's hard to resist painting an Orc captain really. To get him started, I primed him black and get the skin base coated with Panzer yellow. This mini will be a bit more refined than the Shaman, since that was only a test for this scheme. This is more of a how it's going to be when I do the army. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. You can also join Discord where you can hang out, chat and share anything you have been hobbied on. I hope you enjoy the video and find it useful. With all of these skin base coated, I came in with Flak gun yellow for the mid-tone, which covers the majority again. I just leave that darker tone in the recesses and the shadowed parts. These two colours aren't really that different, which is good as it makes blending to a gradient a lot more easier to establish. Finishing off the skin, I used ambush yellow for all of the sharper features of the face and parts of the skin facing upwards. Now that the skin is finished, I can get started on the fabric parts with a couple of coats of reddish grey to start with. I did do the cape in this colour as well, which I'm not too sure about. It turns out fine in the end and looks good, but maybe could have done it blue to emphasize that pop color on the scheme a little bit more. For the mid-tone on these parts, I try out a new color with Castle Grey. I bought this color specifically for this step, that way I don't need to mix colors to get what I want. Although if you are painting up a single model, it's not that bad. It's probably better to mix colors. I'm going to paint an entire army with this, so it makes it a lot easier to replicate if I just have a single color to work with. Polishing off the fabric, I grabbed warm grey and just went around the edges and the sharper details. On the cape, I added a little bit of a scratchy highlight on the flatter areas to help build up a little bit of texture on there. Even though I just explained why I would use single paints when I'm doing an army, for the leather parts I haven't found a good mid-tone grey yet. So instead I'm mixing some black and deep grey together about 50-50. This goes over the majority of the leather parts. I just leave that black primer in the recesses and shadowed parts. To start bringing in some highlights on the leather, I went with pure deep grey. This step is quite a broad highlight, but I tried to focus around the edges and the flatter areas that would be in direct light from above. Since I used deep grey in the previous mix, this step isn't much brighter, but it really helps bringing in that gradient more towards the brighter highlights that will come in later, which is uniform grey just across the sharper edges and the centre of the flat areas in the light. And that is all the leather finished up. That part went faster than I expected it to, but that's a good sign for this scheme as there's a lot of infantry in my list. With the leather finished, I move on to the base now with a once over of Dust Bowl to start with. When I got around to the rock, I thinned the paint down heavily until it starts to split. Then I went over the rock and that just leaves a small amount of Dust Bowl in the random patches, helping it look a little bit more natural. The next step is British khaki over the scabbard ropes and the roots around the base. The Dust Bowl was still pretty wet at this point, so I was going over the base. It blended a little bit on the edges. For a base in a dusty environment, that helps more than hinders, but if you're going for somewhere cleaner, I would probably avoid doing this and wait for it to dry first. After getting the base coat down on the roots and the scabbard, I move on to Dusty Skull as the highlight along with the teeth. For some reason there is still a patch of dust bowl that is very wet, so around this part I try to be a bit more careful as mixing the highlight colour would look a little bit more weird. With the wet patch on the base, I skipped onto the metallics, but for the sake of the video, I'm moving some bits around and finishing the base off first. To do this, I used temple stone and dry brushed it over the dirt and the rock. I took it easy on the rock as I still want that grey to actually show through. Rolling back now, the base is finished. I grab battle axe brass and get all of the metal parts base coated. Unlike the Shaman, every piece of metal is going to be brass. There isn't too much on this mini, so I feel there's no real need to break it up with silver like I did on that one. While I don't need to break up the brass too much, I still want to add a highlight, so I mixed in some mithril blade and start going around the edges and the flatter areas just for a little more visual interest. The last step before the washes is the blue detailing. These parts all start off with a once over Eldar robe. I tried not to overdo it this time as I want the black to really be the primary colour and the blue as the secondary scheme. So I'm glad in the end that I didn't actually do the cape in the blue. Previously I would dry brush the highlight on here, but I want more control over that. And to get that control I mixed in some Reddish blue and began going over the edges with a mid-tone, just leaving that darker tone in the recesses. Now that I have established a mid-tone, I can come in with pure Reddish blue and just touch up the edges for a highlight, just around the sharper areas and the larger flat areas facing upwards. Finishing off the mini, I moved on to the washes, starting off with soft tone over the base, brass and a few parts of the grey. I don't like how the grey came out on the Shaman, it stained a bit too much with this wash, so instead on this one I focused it around more of the joints and the shadowed parts. The final wash is dark tone over all of the black parts. I used this to bring back some of that depth into the recesses and just break up the panels a little bit. And that will be it for Rurthdeg. Overall, just over an hour to get him painted up is not too bad. I think the changes to the scheme, while minor, are going to make it a lot easier to replicate across the entire army now. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. You could also join Discord using the link in the description, where you can share anything you have been hobbying on or just hang out and chat. For those of you looking to pick up some painting supplies or some new minis, there are a couple of affiliate links in the description below. While I get a little bit of kickbacks, there is no additional cost to yourselves. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more content. Most importantly though, be kind to each other.